Hello and welcome to another episode of ReConnect. I'm Kilian Englert, and joining me today is our senior technical evangelist, Mason Takacs. Mason, how's it going?
It's going well. Another rainy day in Columbus, but excited to talk a little bit about Varonis here.
Awesome, thanks so much. So this is our first ReConnect of 2022. We're going to look back at some of the great events we had closing out 2021. So a November DatAdvantage Cloud Connect event, as well as our most recent 8.6 launch. So we just announced that. We just had a really great webinar. And Mason, today I'm going to ask you the best questions we got from our audience during those events. Are you all ready to jump right in?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, let's start off with the DatAdvantage Cloud one. So first one, and this is, I think, a pretty popular question we get from a lot of folks. If a customer already has Varonis for on-prem, can they also leverage DatAdvantage Cloud? And if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, again, as you mentioned, Kilian, this is a question that I get all the time, and the answer is absolutely. We're able to tie into both your on-prem and your cloud data stores, and a lot of customers are really wanting this because they have that great visibility of their on-prem data, and as they're migrating data to different SaaS applications, they want to be able to have those same type of insights around who has access to the data, where is their sensitive data located, and who is using it, so they can be alerted on it. So it really is important to be able to monitor both of those separate locations, and that's something that we can absolutely do. Just because you have the on-prem data, you have the enterprise version of Varonis, doesn't mean that you can't utilize the DatAdvantage Cloud as well.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting that these are two separate products and interfaces for right now. So just keep that in mind. Not a big deal, but thought I'd throw that out there.
Yep.
The next question that we get a lot too is, I think, very different, especially kind of following on from the folks who have been longtime on-prem customers. So how much time and effort and human resources does it take to install, and I'm using that in air quotes, install multiple apps for DatAdvantage Cloud like Salesforce or Okta or Box or Google Workspace or GitHub, just to name a few, for protection and monitoring with DatAdvantage Cloud?
Well, I mean, Kilian, this is the great thing about SaaS is it doesn't take time to install, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
It's really as easy as getting the credentials and being able to put them in and tie directly into the API. We also say it's just as fast to do one as it is to do all of our monitored resources. So really being able to start to tell the entire story of your SaaS applications, as they're all very interconnected. So being able to tie in even more of them and doing it at a much quicker rate, that's one of the biggest advantages we see to going to a SaaS application like DatAdvantage Cloud.
Absolutely. That's huge too. And I know a lot of customers will really appreciate kind of that really quick time to value.
Mhm.
That brings up another interesting question too. I did list off a bunch of the platforms we support. We actually support even more than that. But some folks have asked, and this is a big one for as huge, massive as Salesforce is, if they only have one platform, and Salesforce being the primary one that a lot of people ask about, are they still able to run a risk assessment with just that one platform with DatAdvantage Cloud?
Again, this is a question that we get all the time. And while we do provide, a lot of value in being able to see multiple applications, that doesn't mean that you can't just run one. And because, like you were mentioning, Salesforce is such a mammoth. It has so much data and very sensitive and specific data to your company when it comes to, customer information, support tickets, just all types of different information that you're storing inside of Salesforce. Our customers are receiving tremendous value when it just comes to scanning Salesforce alone. We've run many risk assessments on just Salesforce alone. And again, being able to provide that visibility into that data store is becoming increasingly more important just because of how much sensitive data is being stored in there. So you absolutely can do a risk assessment just on Salesforce if you'd like.
Absolutely. And I know, talking to Ryan O'Boyle and some of the other folks on that cloud focused team, just the permissions visibility into Salesforce, because it's so crazy and complex and there's so many
Yeah.
different layers, is mind blowing. With again, the value just being able to visualize some of that. That's again really kind of cool to make sense out of
I
that.
mean, yeah, when you think about just what you or I have access to,
Hmm.
we're part of a company that has over 2,000 users. So the amount of data that just we have access to, being able to try to untangle that web manually is almost impossible. So that's really where we're seeing a lot of value, is being able to look at those permissions and also identifying what type of data we have inside of the
Right.
environment. And if there's any kind of interconnectivity risk via API that might be exposed inside of Salesforce, this is really where we're trying to focus our key efforts.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next section. So, questions around our DA 8.6 launch. So, this is the Varonis
Mhm.
Enterprise version 8.6. And we got a couple really great questions coming from this one as well. So, in the event there's a lot of focus on Varonis for 365. So we have a lot of questions around that. So one of the first ones that we got is Varonis for 365 able to show data exposures or sensitive data exposures specifically that come from users sharing files or folders or even whole SharePoint online sites?
Yeah, I mean, when we think about Office 365, obviously it's been terrific for collaboration. It gives users the ability to collaborate, especially in a post-pandemic world where a lot of users are going to be remote. They're going to be able to start sharing that data and really realizing the value of that data because they're able to collaborate. But we also know this is at the antithesis of security. So what we want to be able to do is help you identify those exposures and provide you that same type of visibility. When we think about our traditional on-prem use cases, we're used to being able to say, this is open to every single user inside of the environment. And Office 365 is not much different. Users have the ability to share with every single person in the organization. Sometimes even by default, they're able to share with external users. Maybe even with personal accounts like a Gmail or an Outlook account. But they're also able to share with anyone on the internet, which is the scariest thing. So what we're doing is we're mapping all those permissions the same way that we've done before. We're looking at all the activities, so every single sharing event, and we're also able to report back on where there might be overexposures in the permissions. So it really is becoming powerful. Even just doing a risk assessment on day one, we're able to show you where all those files are that are being shared, whether they're internal or external, or if they're shared with anyone on the internet. So, that is one of the biggest pushes of why customers are utilizing our risk assessments, is to be able to gain this visibility when otherwise they did not have it.
That's super cool and super powerful. I have another one, slightly different, and this is a real easy one, so I'll softball it right into you.
Thank you.
So, what I know we talk about kind of a lot of the different platforms that we monitor kind of together in one place. So, what modules required to monitor VPN traffic?
So with VPN, it's actually part of our Edge module. And our Edge module is not just strictly VPN. It actually is bringing in your DNS events. It also, VPN and then web proxy as well. And it really provides that full life cycle of what's happening with the data. If we think about just being able to monitor VPN, extremely important because we can see who's utilizing the VPN. If we have particular people coming from blacklisted geolocations, maybe if we have service accounts that are utilizing a VPN, we can start to identify that. When we think about the life cycle, we need to be able to add in things like DNS to understand, is there a user that's potentially doing reconnaissance and trying to figure out where all of our file servers are? Are they accessing known or malicious DNS sites inside of the environment, which could be indicative of some exposure or maybe even data exfiltration? And then bringing in the web proxy actually lets us see that data exfiltration. This is becoming increasingly more important as well, because when we think about that exfiltration, this is how hackers are now starting to really get leverage on customers. They're exfiltrating data from the environment before they're actually deploying something like a ransomware payload. So what we want to be able to see is that traffic of the data being exported, because that's going to then key us off that, hey, there's something really abnormal going on in this environment, and we can actually start to take automated responses to that as well. But again, it's not just VPN that we're monitoring with that Edge. It's going to be the VPN, the DNS, and the web proxy.
That's awesome. So this one, I think, follows very nicely from those two questions. We talked about monitoring that massive and growing 365 environment, bringing in data from VPN, DNS, and web proxy, all of the file server activity on-prem, so your NAS devices and Windows servers, and then telemetry like AD and Azure AD. So the question that we got from the audience here is, with all of this vast amount of data that we're monitoring, the audit coming in from all of these different platforms, how does Varonis do it without having performance slowdown or impacts on the system?
I mean, Kilian, that's the secret of our sauce, right? That's our magic. This is what we were built to do. We were built to handle these enterprise applications. We were built to handle these enterprise environments. So we were built from the ground up to be able to scan these large data volumes and provide those insights that they were never able to see before, no matter how large the environments are.
That makes sense, and you're exactly right. That's really the secret sauce. It's one platform, one code base designed to do just that from day one. Let's switch it up with a couple questions. One of the biggest things I think probably you and I have been hearing from customers, from partners, from everybody lately is really around labels and trying to take security to the next level. So, real easy one. I think I'll softball this one into you. Can Varonis find sensitive data and then apply labels?
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Labels are becoming increasingly more important when it comes to security strategies that companies are rolling out. And what we're doing at Varonis is we're leveraging our highly accurate classification engine that many of our customers are utilizing today. And what we're starting to do is then apply labels based off of those classifications. So being able to identify where all the data is and apply labels to really increase your DLP functionality to ensure that this data doesn't show up on the wrong devices, get emailed out, get shared externally, or any of those different types of use cases that we're talking about. What we're then doing is we're standardizing this classification and labeling strategy. So we're not relying on manual labeling or maybe a less accurate labeling strategy. What we're doing is we're leveraging our highly accurate label or classification strategy to apply these labels both on-prem and in the cloud, which is extremely important because now we have this unified set across both of our major data stores.
That's huge. And just for clarification, we are leveraging a partnership with Microsoft to apply labels with MIP, which actually rolls very well into the next question. You actually touched on this here, so I think we have kind of a good sense of where you're going with this. So, how does Varonis handle files that were labeled manually with MIP? So, if the user was labeling them within their Office documents, can Varonis do anything like that, or how do we handle that?
Absolutely. So when we think about this, a lot of the times manual labeling, while it is extremely important, it can be difficult. A lot of this data, these end users aren't even going to touch. When we think about a standard environment, over 50% of the data hasn't been touched in a couple years. And we also understand that people will label documents differently depending on what they're trying to do, or depending on if they've had lunch or not, even at sometimes. So what we really are trying to understand is we're going to go out and we're going to scan all of these documents as well, and we'll be able to provide you with where they might be mislabeled. Now, we can even fix those labels. We can report and show you where they might be mislabeled. So this is really how we're going to then help bolster that manual classification strategy. We want to be able to trust our users to do this correctly, but it's really a trust but verify method that we want to impose. And if it is accidentally mislabeled with a different label than it should be, let's say it's considered to be internal use only, but it's highly confidential, we'll fix that label and actually apply it inside of the environment.
That's super cool and super powerful to really take that labeling and security strategy to the next level. So around that, one of the goals that I think a lot of people have with labeling is kind of that first step in the DLP process. They want to be able to take action, so block it potentially from going out, or even encrypting it at rest. And I know that's a functionality that Microsoft offers with MIP. So if a file is already labeled and it has an encryption policy from MIP applied to it, can Varonis still scan those files?
Kilian, you already mentioned it. Because we're directly integrated with MIP, we are able to go out and look at those encrypted files. We're able to then read those encrypted files because of our integration, and then we can make sure we're scanning it for sensitive data inside of that document so that we ensure that the correct label is applied once again. So absolutely, we tie in with MIP so we can see those encrypted documents.
That's huge. I know it's a big question that we get a lot. We've got from a long time, and it's
It'd
really
be a huge blind spot if we couldn't do that.
Absolutely. All right, so we're at the last question of the session. We're actually going to switch it up a little bit differently.
Okay.
So a lot of folks out there know this, but maybe not everybody. So if they don't, here's a piece of information. Varonis offers complimentary incident response service to our customers and our prospects. What's the best way to engage them? So if you're a customer or if you're a prospect on an eval, you get an alert you're not quite sure about, you want to dive deeper. How do you engage our team to help investigate that with you?
I mean, the easiest way is just to reach out to your local account team. All of our account teams know the direct process that we need to go through, and we ensure that you're going to be able to have somebody from that incident response team to help you if you do have any type of nefarious activity that you're not sure of inside of your environment. We also have ways of being able to work with our optimization teams. And again, your teams will know a little bit more on how to get you directly involved with this. But what we can do is help tune alerts, and we can also help set up automated response. So if we don't have somebody with eyes on glass, when a particular event might happen, what we can then do is make sure that we have an automated response to limit the potential impact of a threat like that. So again, just reach out to your local account team and please, utilize this free service. This is something that every single one of our customers has seen value out of. And I want to make sure that if anybody is not utilizing this, that they please talk with their local account team and they will be able to get them in contact with them to help going forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. Mason, thank you so much for the time to go through this. And
It's
hopefully,
a pleasure as always, Kilian.
Thank you. Looking forward to hopefully doing this again really soon for our next event. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.